Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
Hey, welcome back, everybody. Many of us are intrigued by psychic mediums. Many of us consider maybe consulting one, getting some insight, getting some details. Maybe it's from somebody who passed on. Maybe it's your life now in general. But some apprehension sometimes comes into play there. And you wonder, how do I pick a medium? We're going to talk about that today. Things that you should watch for, tips, and all of that. She is one of those mediums, and she has given us lots of insight so far. We actually started with the flags that you should look out for with a medium. We never finished. We're going to circle back on that with Noelle Deane, who joins us once again here. Welcome back. How are you doing?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm good. So why don't we go right back to and reset this as well, because we went off in a direction and then we never circled back to it. The flags, like the red flag, the green flag, the yellow, when it comes to a medium, what you should be looking for and or looking out for.
Yeah, thanks. So just to create a context, maybe the idea of it is having a power differential. So when it feels like somebody has, let's say, power over you or insight that you don't, or an in with like your grandparents, it's easy to want to maybe give up a little of your own power or discernment, or be overly cautious because it seems too good to be true and you just don't know what to make of this person. So if you can get a referral from a trusted friend, let's say, from somebody they had a great experience with, that would be wonderful. That's always a safe way to go, whether it's a plumber or a medium. Yellow flags. So red flags are somebody evoking that sense of need or urgency. And I've had a lot of experiences with this, not just with one person, but actually with quite a few people.
And you shared that. I just want to drop
thanks.
in there. And it was major in your earlier life and very impactful. And that's where this is coming from. So you truly walk the walk and talk the talk.
I try.
Yeah. Well, what you shared, and we're not going to go over it again here, but if you want to look back on an earlier podcast, it happened to you where you trusted in someone that had apparently ability, wasn't exactly what you thought it was. And that's where this is coming from, a good place.
Yeah, I mean, it's coming from a place of love and hope right now. And, my own sort of hypervigilance about not wanting to put anybody else in that same position. I think I've gone a little bit overboard, where I want to be cautious to not create that power differential with somebody else. So My way of looking at it is I really want to empower people that they are just as capable of doing any of this work as I am. I've just put in a lot of time.
Mm-hmm.
So red flags are anybody who evokes a sense of need for them. So, I teach classes, I do all kinds of stuff, but I really work to never try to create for somebody, oh, you have to work with me, I can really help you with this. Right. You must, or something like that. So I've had people say that they work with movie stars and millionaires, and just for several $100s, they can help remove this negative energy or a hex or whatever it was on me. And also somebody who was talking about that my energy was really off, my chakras were blocked, or whatever it was that they said. And knowing I was an intuitive medium, I would think that they would say, hey, you got to do a clearing. What are you thinking? But instead kept saying, oh, you need this, and I can do this, and I have this on sale, kind of thing. And I just had to immediately shut myself down from even feeling tempted, because it's easy to feel like, well, she sees something I don't. Mm-hmm. I should go to her.
It's so like FOMO, fear of missing out. It's like, but I'm going to be missing something there if I don't go down that road. Yeah,
like there's something wrong and this person can fix it.
Right.
I take a lot of mediumship classes and I do other things, but now, at least at this place in my life, it comes from a place of it's enhancing my life. I don't feel at a deficit, and there's some desperation there. So that's, I think, the number one. I would say not numbering anything, but yellow flags Now, I've heard people use the term cold readings. Like, let's say we were doing a reading right now,
Yep.
and I pick up on some information. I am going to look at your face. I'm trying to be better about keeping my eyes closed. I'm kind of a people pleaser, and I'm an empath, and I'm a therapist. So I want to see how you're doing with the information that I'm getting, because I want to see, am I picking up on the right thing? It's not like I'm going to now change my direction because, oh no, he kind of like I'm not trying to gauge you to give you different kinds of information. I just want to see how it's going. And so people may watch you when they're doing some kind of reading with you for that. But that would be, I want to know it's going well, not
Having
necessarily reading your cues.
having worked with psychics before for over 25 years,
Wow.
that is the number one skeptic ploy. Oh, it's a cold reading. It's a cold reading.
Hmm.
Because allegedly they're reading somebody's face. If you say something, you had a male figure pass away, it might have been possibly a father, and then you watch the face, you know, then that's the road that they'll take. But I can tell you firsthand, many times doing morning radio, there would be no face. I just answer the phone. And, for anybody who's skeptical there, and I'm talking working with good psychics like yourself, that there's no way that somebody could have been planted on my phone line. There were thousands of people calling and 5 lines, and I'm just going like this. If somebody can get through like that, where it's planned, you should be playing the lottery at this point. This is just no chance. And the psychic wasn't looking at a face because it was radio. So the cold reading thing, I get what you're saying there. It can be used, but like you say, you're looking to make sure it's going okay and they're
Yeah.
comfortable and happy. You're not looking for answers.
Absolutely, because part of what we try to do, and I appreciate my training as a therapist because it keeps you ethical, and do no harm is one of the mottos of any, medical or alternative healing profession. So I want to be clear. And look, there are times when I am thinking of one reading I did where the woman just started bawling, but it was connecting with a family member that had a tragic end, and there was just so much pain. So there wasn't like reading. Anyway, I had to sort of detach myself from all of her emotion. Otherwise, I couldn't really continue doing the reading.
Sure.
But anyway, but also there's this thing that sometimes people in spirit do where they say the most predictable thing, like a grandmother saying she's proud of you, or that
Yeah.
and there's in my head, I'm like, do you have to say that? Because I
Yeah.
don't want to say that to them because it sounds so general and vague. And
Yeah.
I really get it when it's coming out of my mouth, but sometimes they actually say that, and I can't change it. I want to say I try to be as verbatim as possible with the information that comes through. So I'm not going to make it sound more creative or something.
Well,
But I get that how it can come across.
yeah, and if there can be other validation with it, I'm sure my grandmother's proud of me. I'd like to think so. I think she would be.
Hmm.
But then there's further validation that come along with that
Aw.
to back it up. And then you have the psychics that are reading somebody who's Italian, and then will say, getting an A name or a T, an A or a T. Anthony Tony. No kidding.
That's what I thought too. And just as you mentioned your grandmother, because you said you're open to if something comes through, and what I saw was, yes, of course, you're a darling boy. And I can feel her emotion around that.
I could
And I'm
hear
getting
her say that, and there's a reason, but I'm not going to tell you the reason.
good. Don't.
And that's the other part too. Don't give up information. Don't give up.
Absolutely. Please don't, because that
Yeah.
makes it complicated. When I do readings on friends who want that sometimes, what I know, I've worked on my mediumship a whole lot, especially in this last year. So I feel like I've gone up a couple of levels for what I was able to do. So now I feel less worried, like, oh crap, I knew that. This is a test. I'm not testing myself any longer. I've gotten enough validation about things that I know what I'm getting is right. And I constantly check. I have a check-in process that I run everything through. So it's energy testing. I use my body as a pendulum. I have a video series on my website about this for free if anybody wants to learn how to do it for themselves. But I'll ask, hey, am I getting this right? And I'll get a yes, and I lean forward. Or if I'm off track, I get a no, which has me lean back. And then I'm like, oh, sorry. Can you repeat that? Can you say that differently to the person in spirit?
Is
So
that energy testing similar to muscle testing?
absolutely. Actually, I heard you do an interview with somebody who does Reiki, and she talked about using Reiki for that, which I'd never heard of it in that context. It could be
Hmm.
muscle testing. I learned it as using yourself as a pendulum, and there are videos on YouTube about that. But in
Yes.
teaching my class, it's one of the first things I teach because I want people to work through the self-doubt. And a great way to do that is to be able to ask, hey, am I getting this right? And getting a yes or no. And not everybody's is the same. I have a typical one, but other people have all kinds of things that they get. Somebody sees sunshine when it's a yes and felt something in their toes, I think, when it was a no. So if you want to find yours, it may be helpful for you for whatever. I mean, when I'm out at the taco shop and I'm deciding what to eat, I use the check-in method. I use it for everything.
Hmm.
So anyway,
Can,
that
can we
and
can we focus on that for just a moment?
sure.
I've tried to do it, muscle testing,
Mhm.
pendulum testing, sway test. I I'm open to it and believe in it 1000%, but I find myself second guessing. And I try to, ask myself the true question, the false question to get a baseline for what way I might sway or whatever. I haven't nailed it yet. However, when it comes to the simple tests, like do I want Italian tonight or do I want Mexican? I've done that before, and the feeling that I get, not the rumble in my stomach, but the feeling, and sometimes it is should I choice A or choice B? Usually the right answer is the lighter choice for me. It's just like, oh, yeah, that's light. That feels good. Where the wrong choice is just a heavier, I don't know. But usually, many times, we'll say, oh, the easy choice, that can't be it. It can't be that easy. It can't. And then we go with the other choice, we complicate it, and it's the wrong choice.
Oh,
Make
absolutely.
sense?
And I love that when you're saying the lightness of it, I totally get that. Even though I get my swaying in, there is a lightness depending on what I'm asking about.
Hmm.
And you brought up a really good point, which is when you are asking for information, it can come very quickly and easily. We talked last week that one of the ways you can get validation is if something is surprising and unexpected. But what you're talking about right now is, and I can't take credit for this because I get a lot of help from people in spirit when I teach my class. But one of the phrases that they had me teach was to don't throw away the first pancake. I might have been
Hmm.
hungry at the time, but anyway, but don't throw away the first pancake means in that first millisecond that you're asking a question, you get an immediate answer. Don't throw that away. That's the
Hmm.
information. Just like when, and everybody can relate to this, when you take a test, they say your first answer is usually the right one. This is the same principle.
Same
It's the first
principle.
thing. Yeah.
That's funny. Don't throw away the first pancake. Yeah. Because what do you do when you make pancakes? The first one, it came out okay. Let me toss that one away. There's nothing wrong with it. But you're like, yeah, I could do it better. I could do it better. It didn't brown the way it should have. Bubble too soon, whatever it is.
It seems
Interesting.
expendable, so you toss it.
Right.
And I have a friend when I was first teaching her to do a little mediumship, and I remember her saying, it just seems too easy. And as we both kind of sat with her saying that, we started laughing, like, yeah, I get it. It does
Yeah.
actually. It
Yeah.
does.
Because this
But that's how
comes
it
into
comes.
play. The logic comes in, and the logic is, well, no, it can't be that easy. And I think in our culture, many of us have been those who are not very young have been groomed to work hard for everything that we
Mhm.
get. And when, yeah, we have to work at that answer. I'm going to process that answer. But the first one is usually the easiest one and the right one. Yeah.
Absolutely. And the working hard thing, you have to like toil over, that's the word that just came to me. You have to toil over getting something good. And there's no toiling in intuition and mediumship. I think that's why, anyway, when the more we don't think and just accept that first thing that comes in, and then in my world, I double check it usually, there's just this ease and flow to it. And it's amazing where you can go with it because of that.
Hmm.
So I do want to just make sure we put in the green flags.
Please.
Yeah. So we talked about getting a referral. If you have an interaction with a medium, and I would suggest maybe doing a consultation with them at first to see if that's somebody they actually connect with, feel comfortable with, feel like you can trust them. If you leave feeling, let's say, empowered, your choices are respected, they're giving you space, there's no obligation, there's no fear to do anything more, anything further, that would be a great person to work with.
Okay. Yeah. And go with your gut.
Absolutely. Yeah.
If it feels right.
Yeah.
And I was in a situation recently. I'm in between buying houses and situation came up and it just was too good to be true, but I had to investigate it. But I knew right away it was screaming inside. It was like, no, 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 no. But I needed to, it just, I couldn't let it go. And I was right. It was a complete scam, but I needed to check into it. But you've listened to your gut. Your gut always knows the answer. We know
Yeah.
anything you need to know. You already know it. You already have the answer. Is it easy to pull the answer out? Sometimes yes, sometimes no. The no is because of the stuff that we're talking about here today, where our minds get in the way, right?
Yeah, and you have to learn to trust yourself. So
Yeah.
using your intuition to help practice making those kinds of decisions. But when, I mean, I feel like when I'm off in some kind of way, like I'm having a reaction to something, it's really hard to get a clear answer.
Yes.
So you
Yeah.
have to allow for that. And it should be a true question. Like if I had chocolate pudding next to me and I was asking if it was for my hair, it's good to eat the chocolate pudding. I shouldn't ask if I really want the chocolate pudding. I laugh at myself. Like my guys are probably like, just eat the pudding. Like she's just going to whine about it later. Like, because I can be a little childish about chocolate. So anyway, they're probably just like, just eat it. Please just eat it. It wasn't a real question though, is the thing. It has to be simple questions, yes or no, if you use the lean method or the sway method rather. But if anybody wants to check it out on my website, it's also on
Cool.
my YouTube channel. Both are connectingwithnoelle.com or connecting with Noelle. Please feel free to use that.
Chocolate pudding, is the instant just as good as the one you cook, or do you have a preference?
I have not had instant in forever, but I have made it homemade. I'm actually vegan now, so I probably should make some because everything I'm eating is
Homemade chocolate pudding?
it's not that hard actually. It's like 5 ingredients and you just microwave it over and over until it gets thick.
What? I didn't even know that. I wouldn't even think that. And
Yeah.
I'm the opposite. I haven't had the cooked kind where it has the skin, the mighty fine back in the day. Remember that? Um, and then either you love the skin on it or you don't.
Yeah.
I would leave that for last. That was like the dessert,
Oh,
the
nice.
chocolate pudding. Whatever. I digress. I digress. Um, so mediumship tip. What can you offer?
So I would say the don't throw away the first pancake, like
Mm,
genuinely. And it takes like a half a millisecond to get information. So capture that information and try not to think if you're looking to get information and clear space. So sorry, that wasn't very clear, but you have to create like a time, a space within yourself to receive information. So I'm trying this new thing. I'm walking in the mornings, trying to connect with whoever wants to connect with me on my spiritual team. Got lots of boundaries about who's allowed to connect with me in that way. And then I'm listening to music like this morning. And then I was like, oh, I have to turn off the music. I have to clear my head. Now, we can do mindless things, riding a bicycle, folding laundry, cleaning our house, where we're not really thinking, but our hands are busy. And then stuff can just kind of float in. I try to be more deliberate because I take notes, I record stuff on Zoom, but you have to create a space. And part of why I'm doing this thing in the morning is I kept getting information at 10:30 at night as I'm about to fall asleep because it's quiet. This is why they come to
yep.
us at
Yep.
those times, or first thing in the morning, 3 in the morning. So if you want more info, give them an opportunity. And when I say them, I don't know who exactly I mean. People on your spiritual team, loved ones that are wanting to get through to you, have boundaries about that because you can't just, it's not any rando who's, walking by like, hey, anybody who wants to come in. You have to have boundaries. And I talk about that a lot. Not that anybody needs my book, but I cover a lot of things in my book that is available on Amazon about all the things that I could think that somebody would need to know if they were going to take on this kind of venture. It could be scary. It's intimidating, I think. I don't see who's around me much at all. So if I was going to start doing mediumship at this point in my life, I'd probably be pretty fearful. So
Hmm.
having like the lay of the land, what are all the foundations I need to know? Just like if I was going to start mountain climbing, if I could read a guide that told me all the things to watch out for so I could feel like, okay, I could do this. And if this comes up, I know to do this, I would do it. And so that was part of what I had in mind, as well as people with short attention spans like myself. So it's a brief book.
Hmm.
But I want
Um,
people to feel safe to try this.
I love all this insight. This is the stuff that people don't talk about. And much of this, a lot of this, isn't just applicable to mediums. This is just you want an answer, you can get an answer. And I
Mhm.
want to go back to what you said, ask a question. Do you mean even, assumably when nobody's around, because it might be a little weird for people, asking it out loud? All right, address your spirit team or not, doesn't matter. But okay, I need the answer. Should I pick choice A? Should I pick choice B? What is the answer? And then wait for the answer.
Actually, I would suggest, if I'm really serious about getting an answer like that, I stand up to get my best, fullest leaning in or swaying in, and I ask a really simple question. So now I'm starting to ask, is there somebody here who can answer this question for me? And I see that I get a yes. And then I ask about choice A. It has to be a one point question, a simple yes or no. So I would ask, is it for my highest good
Mm,
to do A? And then I feel a no. I'm getting a no right now. I don't know what the A is that I have in mind, and I'm noticing lately that I'm feeling more aware that I'm not sure exactly who I'm asking, and people may have an idea of who they want to ask. It could be their higher self, it could be their own intuition, it could be the energy of the universe or your spirit. I mean, you can make that choice for yourself. You set that intention to that person. There are times I'm just asking my grandfather a question, and my intention is set on him.
I do the same thing with my mom.
Oh, nice.
And when I ask for signs, I don't know if I shared, they're very specific. She sends them extremely specific. And, if a butterfly floats by and that supports you, wonderful. I want to go deeper. I need more.
Mhm.
Maybe because she raised the bar in the beginning and then I get them. I get them. But what you identified now is that ask if it's choice A, should, for my greater good, should I pick choice A? As opposed to saying, what's it supposed to be, A or B? It's got to be a yes or no on the a yes or no on the B.
Yeah.
Okay. Mm.
Simple questions. Yeah. And then everybody asking the universe, please show me a yes. Please show me a no when you're asking to what is your symbol or signal. And you may have to ask that each time
Mm.
you start asking questions until you get a real flow for what it is, because sometimes they change it up. This happened to somebody in one of my classes. I think what they told me was they just wanted to really keep her paying attention. I guess she would be somebody who might easily become a bit unconscious about things. So they made her, they changed it up each time, but it kept
Wow.
her really engaged.
Interesting. Um, Good insight today. Really good.
Yeah.
And answers. I mean, you answered a lot of the things that I thought but wasn't 100% sure about. And then maybe this is new territory for others, but certainly if somebody wants a reading, insight, or even to learn how to do this on the medium level, what's the website again?
Connectingwithnoelle.com. And you can also reach out with any questions at connectingwithnoelle@gmail.com. And please call in next week. We're going to take some phone calls. And
Yes.
if you have specific questions about mediumship, it might not be easy for me to tune in to any one person, but any kind of question about mediumship that anybody's wanted to ask, I'll do my
Sure.
best to answer.
And if you just want to email us, maybe you're not comfortable talking,
Mm.
instantfeedbacksteve@gmail.com, instantfeedbacksteve@gmail.com. We'll catch up next week. Thank you so much for today, Noelle. Really appreciate it.
Oh, thank you, Steve. It was great.
Same. We'll be right back.
Are you looking for even more of the podcasts and hosts that you love? The Podcast Business News Network is proud to announce that you now have even more ways to listen live. Check out the MyTuner Radio, online radio box, and Simple Radio apps on iOS and Android, or find us online. Search for Business News Network on mytuner-radio.com, or search Podcast Business News Network on streama.com and onlineradiobox.com/US. Take your podcast on the go and don't miss a minute of the action.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
For nearly 2,000 severely injured veterans, everyday life has become filled with barriers.
Day-to-day simple tasks can become pretty daunting.
I have to carry my chair up 2 flights of steps or have somebody do it for me.
What scares me the most is just the falling.
When I'm struggling with my house, I think, to have that one great barrier just knocked down, it's crucial.
Home for Our Troops is a wonderful nonprofit that builds a
mortgage-free, fully adaptive, handicap-accessible house.
And there's no catch.
It'll be our very first home that we've ever owned.
This is a game changer.
This is where your life begins again.
We need you to join us in completing this important mission. Please visit hfotusa.org and help build homes and rebuild lives.
Because of you, everything's going to be okay.